Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Triggett, CEO of Practice Promotions. And today we're going to talk with Dr. Josh Funk, who is the founder and CEO of Rehab to Perform, a 16-location practice in Maryland, Virginia, and the DC area. And he's going to talk to us about how he's built such a massive online following and brand. I really respect him for this, so I'm excited to chat with him today. And just a few quick stats on him. Rehab to Perform has over 66,000 followers on Instagram, 45,000 on TikTok, 11,000 on YouTube, 6,000 on Facebook, and 4,000 on LinkedIn. So just massive brand presence there. So all in all, that's well over 100,000 people who are engaging with Rehab to Perform social media and brand. And if you've seen their videos, I think you'll agree they're pretty compelling. So that's why today Josh is going to divulge to us and teach to us how he's built such a massive online following across his PT clinic. So Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it. It's awesome to be here with somebody that has been doing it at a high level for a very, very long time. So, it's an honor to be here.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So let's chat with our audience here, our community. There's a lot of practice owners out there. Some do a fantastic job with their brand. Some are just starting out. So curious from you, how did you approach the brand of Rehab to Perform and kind of where did you start with that?
So it's an interesting topic, and I think it's one that people have a hard time putting their finger on as they look to really solidify who they are, what they do, and really what it comes down to is who you're pairing yourself with or your company with and the associations that you're trying to make with your brand. So I think, for us, early on, we definitely wanted to be differentiated, right? We wanted to be in a space where we did not look like everything to everyone. We honestly didn't look like medical. We wanted to look a lot more like our fitness partners and the fitness community at large. So there are certain things that you're expecting to see in the facility when you walk in, certain pieces of equipment, certain things from a layout standpoint. Honestly, taking a lot of inspiration from Mike Boyle and his facilities in terms of how the overall flow went. Early inspiration on the clinical side started to, drive a little bit more of those choices as well, whether or not it was Charlie Weingroff, Training Equals Rehab, or other professionals during that time. You can even take Mike Reinhold as a great example. Hopefully people are very familiar with him. But you're really asking yourself what you wanted to be associated with, what you wanted to be known for. And then the biggest thing beyond that is the consistency side. So I think a lot of people haven't really sat down and done maybe a brand guide for their company. That superficially for a lot of people will look like a logo, maybe a color palette, a list of ways that a logo could be used in print or video. But you need to go a lot further beyond that and really think about the senses. So think about things visually, think about things that people are hearing, and think about what they overall might be feeling. And it doesn't always have to be tactile touch, but the feeling that people might get from spending time with you. So for us, that's everything from, little points in the waiting room, things that are on the walls in the clinic, organizations that we will associate and align with outside when you think about the word partnerships, the way staff will be dressed. And really, when you get into it now, we're to a point where in our 11th year of business, we just did a brand refresh. We have a branding document that's over 20 pages at this point in time. So, the level of intentionality is where it all starts. Consistency is the name of the game with anything. And then hopefully it's something, much like, say, a core values, mission, vision statement. Hopefully it's something you revisit and ask yourself whether or not it's the current reality or if it's just aspirational. And I would argue that something when it comes to brand, early on it's aspirational and it's up to you to put it in practice.
Wow, so much to unpack there. I love it. You really said something to me that made me stop and think about how a lot of practice owners, like, we approach branding. We think of branding as like our logo, right? And like you said, some of the brand guidelines, the colors and things that might be, made for us by a graphic designer or someone that we use locally for that. You went so much deeper than that, and the brand is really who you are. and the intentionality behind that. And I think you really spoke to that in that you have this vision of what you want rehab to perform to be, and that helps your decision process from the layouts of the clinic to the like how patients experience what they see, getting inspiration from other successful business owners out there, but really looking at the intentionality of like how does someone experience your business all the way through, from discovering you online to coming into the clinic and their experience. Like all of that is part of the brand. And I think that's where some practice owners really get into confusion, is that they just think of brand as being like your logo, right? Or something that you're going to put together in digital or print, but it goes way beyond.
Yeah, I think when I hear you say that, it makes me think of omni-channel marketing, right? Or an omni-channel ecosystem. You could view your online storefront as your website. You could view your actual storefront. What type of real estate, products do you go into? What do people see? How are they greeted or communicated to? What kind of things catch their eye when they're walking into the waiting room? When they come back to the staff, how are they greeted? What type of things do we say? What type of things do we not say? That's also very, very important too. One of the things that we did in our recent brand refresh was also, this is who we're not. This is what we don't do, right? So it's very important to clearly define those things and have those conversations, because at the end of the day, the more clarity the consumer can get, the easier it is for them to make decisions. The easier it is not just for them to make that initial decision with you, but the decision of retention. So when it comes down to making sure that your cost per acquisition goes a long, long way, you are more likely to have a better a lifetime value from an individual if the overall experience and the brand experience is consistent, that it is something that they're regularly seeing during their maybe in-person time with you, but potentially also through email. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. Or they're following you on social media, or they see you out in the community at a community workshop or an event or a sporting game or practice. So, you really have to ask yourself, am I showing up all of the ways that I want to and all of the ways that I don't want to, in all of the different places that somebody can interact with your company?
Mm-hmm. Love it. So you said something very important there, which is in your meeting with your team, you really talked about who you're not for. Could you give us a few examples of that?
Yeah, I think for us, early on, we wanted to not be everything to everyone. So we also wanted to be able to communicate to people. Simple example, on the phone, when people would ask for certain areas of physical therapy, we would go, hey, we don't do that, but we know somebody who does. Naturally, people see physical therapy, physical therapist. They're thinking, I can go see this company. Maybe they have an availability, but it's also important to clearly communicate like what you're qualified to see. So when I think of then who we might not work with, we might not work with individuals that want largely a manual or hands-on experience. We are a lesser manual or lesser hands-on company. If people are psychologically aligned with the words, competency, capacity, and conditioning, those are people who might want to spend more time with us. People who do want to be educated throughout the course of their journey, but they're going to be challenged safely within a medical framework that allows them to build a better baseline. So, think of the way that you have words on your website and how that might qualify certain individuals or disqualify certain individuals. This is kind of a sticky subject for some, but the majority of physical therapy businesses are largely catered for an older population. I could be wrong, and you might know this better than I do, but I think the average age for a physical therapy patient is like 58, right? It's like late 50s.
Yeah.
Ours is late 30s. That was by design. We want to create a message and a brand that aligns a lot more with the experience that a millennial or Gen Z or Generation Alpha or Beta is going to be seeking out. So, when looking for brand comparables, and you're looking at the ecosystem of where your avatar is interacting with, you're potentially looking to steal certain gems or ways that things are messaged to pull that group in a little bit more. You might be looking at things in a way where you could simply look up on something like ChatGPT or Gemini is, how do I make sure that my business is boomer proof or less associated with the the boomer designation, which typically is going to be an older population. And again, for us, we're not necessarily looking to exclude with any intent. We're just looking to really, really narrow down on who we are the absolute best fit for. So, it's going to potentially put you in a situation where some people might not view it to be as appealing, but for us, it's allowing our clinicians to see the kind of population that they want to see, which is largely individuals who want to be in a more gym-based environment, to be in a position where they have more of a performance-based version of physical therapy. And that typically aligns, again, with the younger clientele that we see at our offices.
Yeah, and I think what I see a lot of times is that practice owners, they're afraid to niche down, right? They feel like, in order to grow, I have to serve everybody. And actually the opposite is true of that. And you're a perfect example of it where, you got very clear on who you want to serve, who is your ideal audience, how can you serve them the best, and then go all in on that, right? And there's enough of an audience to do that. I'm curious, has it always been that way, or did you get better with that over time?
I think early on, we probably spoke too much just to a sports rehab designation. I think when you just look at the company name in itself, you're talking about catering to largely just athletes. It's no secret, athletes can work with you from 3 to 7 every day in the summer and potentially over winter breaks. So from a business standpoint, we started looking less and having wording, language, branding, all right, your messaging, speaking less specifically to an athlete by title, an athlete by, whether or not they play on a court or a field, and instead more of like what we would consider an athletic mindset. So an individual that wants to be educated, they want to be coached and consulted with throughout the course of their time with us, who want to be in a situation where somebody is appropriately challenging them. Outside of that, I mean, we did, and I sometimes talk to business owners, and we were trying to run a PT business while also doing a little bit of personal training and performance training. So that was also kind of a carryover there. We got a little bit smarter. We decided we wanted to run one business really, really well. It was a physical therapy business. And again, get exceptional at our messaging for people who we felt like we could just deliver the best outcomes to. Getting back kind of on the earlier topics, if we opened ourselves up to handling more complex neuro cases, or with individuals that have maybe a little bit more needs when it comes to things like balance, we could put ourselves in a position where people have a mediocre experience, because quite honestly, our company is not geared towards that. We don't have the staff training that is geared towards outcomes in that way. So it's also by creating a situation where you're better speaking to your avatar, to the people that you're looking to serve, you also position yourself to be more likely to have best-in-class outcomes with that population, because your company is catered towards that. And we try to make sure that when we're telling people, hey, we're probably not a good fit for you, we're saying it's because we probably aren't the best people to give you the kind of outcomes you're going to look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% with that, and that could be for any division of PT, right? So if you really want to focus and niche down in neurological, for example, right? Like you can totally do that, or women's health, or pediatric, so. I mean, you're not necessarily going to go to a pediatric therapist for sports performance, right? And that's, again, you can, as you were mentioning there, craft the way that you build your business, the people that you attract, the trainings that you do with your staff, the talent that you bring into your company to really serve that population well. And the better you get at that, the more well-known you are. Obviously, you can build your rapport and build that brand, and people start to gravitate towards it. So, it's perfectly possible. And, you see this in businesses out there where, you can have a neurological clinic that has multiple locations, right? And be very, very successful with that. So this thought that we have to, message to everybody and serve everybody, we don't see that in the marketplace work that well.
I would agree. I think starting with a niche, getting really good at serving that niche. And I think over time, and this is what we've experienced over the past 3 to 4 years, you can start to kind of stretch that umbrella out a little bit more so that you can bring more people under. That has been in the way of diving into concussion rehab, obviously a big talking point with our avatar that we already had. And then it's no secret, the number one decision maker in society today is probably the mom that is a triple generation decision maker. And for us, that looks like peripartum fitness and peripartum physical therapy. So that's something that we've added in. It's not anything different for the avatar that we're looking for. It's just providing more services to that audience that we were already speaking to.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm just curious for you, did you see your growth as you really worked on your branding, as you worked on being broader on social media? Was that something that took off, or is it sort of a linear expansion for you?
I think there are two things. One, I had to sell a lacrosse services business that I was running for the first probably 4 years of also having rehab to perform, or my time was just spread thin. I was in two separate places. Both did really, really well with my in-person efforts that were probably a lot more high effort, work hard versus work smart. It wasn't until the pandemic where I really found out how to, quite honestly, build the word ecosystem. We were very, very good in person. We were very good at doing talks, workshops. We were very, very good at going to community events. We were very good at outreach. Whether or not that was drop-ins, calling people, emailing them, DMing. And then you get to a certain point in time where the pandemic happens and you cut off a certain amount of the things that you're good at. So we can no longer do a lot of the in-person things, really any, especially in the state that we're in. Obviously, had different rules being right outside DC. We were about as restrictive as you could possibly be. So you had to get better at digital marketing, right? I had to learn about things like CAC and ROAS. Well, ROAS in particular, where you have a return on ad spend, right? Where you're diving into not just free, which is your social media side, but your paid advertising, whether or not that was Meta or Google. But I think that that period of time really forced me to build an ecosystem, to understand phrases like omni-channel marketing, and to make sure that the things that we were doing in person so well, that experience could be mirrored in a different way.
Yeah, and so Josh, for our audience out there who are not too familiar with some of the marketing terminology, what is omni-channel marketing?
Omni-channel marketing, I would say that you're looking at how your business is showing up in a wide variety of different places. And you are making sure that things like the visual side of it is consistent, the things that people are hearing, the things that they are reading are consistent. Ideally, you have as little friction as possible for people to understand who you are, what you do, how you solve people's problems, what your value is, and then getting leads, right? Making it as stress-free or as frictionless for people to become a lead for you, for then your team to qualify the lead and ideally get them scheduled. So, for a lot of people, they maybe haven't sat down and looked at all the different ways that people can learn about the company. They haven't made sure that that experience is mirrored in all of those different places. And it, a lot of times is a big reason why people maybe plateau earlier than they should, because they're not gradually stacking channels that people are using, particularly their ideal demographic. If we're talking about Meta, that's probably a great place for your decision maker. It's probably a great place for that mom that I was talking about earlier, Facebook and Instagram. But then also understanding that that's really good awareness marketing. So what am I doing from a conversion-based marketing standpoint? Okay, well now I have to go have a conversation with Google. Are there relatively similar things in there? Google might not be as visual, but am I checking certain boxes there? If I then had a flyer that was going out to a doctor, do I have a certain amount of overlap? Is the Venn diagram completely separated, or do I have a significant amount of overlap in terms of how people are seeing things, how they're gathering what it is that I do, how we solve people's problems, what our value is, and then also ways for me to be converted as a potential client.
Yeah, and you really hit the nail on the head there. So we have to look at people's experience online today, and you were a perfect example of how that just transition exploded during COVID, right? We all went online much more. And so what I see a lot with practice owners is they tend to focus on, okay, what is the one channel that's going to fix everything for me, right? I'm going to just do Facebook ads, or I'm just going to spend on Google ads. They're not thinking how patients are looking across all these different platforms, right? And throughout the week, the month. And so I love what you're saying there, that you're looking at how these different channels do overlap and people's experiences with that. And so if we do get awareness from Facebook ads, for example, or Instagram ads, then how do we have the opportunity to bring them further into the conversation, right? And start to interact with our brand online. Are we meshing with what they're thinking of, and guiding them through to that conversion, right? To come into the clinic.
Definitely. I mean, and also just understanding the difference between two different channels, right? I mean, if we're talking about our awareness-based marketing, how do I get that individual to be converted? Do I know what a nurture sequence is? Do I know what an email opt-in rate is, right? So you go through ideally the learning to own channels. Ideally, you're not in a situation where, obviously, depending on if it's a newer business owner out there where you think you have to do everything, it's very, very important to capture and keep. We want to capture and keep channels. So if we pick one, let's make sure we dive in. Let's make sure we optimize it. It should be working for us. You get it to a certain point where you're just making minor tweaks, and then you're stacking, right? You're adding things to your marketing stack, your tech stack, whatever we want to essentially communicate it as. But being in a situation where again, going back to the pandemic, and it was transformational for a lot of people. For us, it was incredibly important for us building out what we would say now is a pretty healthy ecosystem.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
And so for you, you were mentioning obviously the different paid advertising that you're doing. I'm curious from your standpoint at your size clinic, what does that budget look like for your social media side, for Google advertising side? Just kind of curious what a practice at your size that looks like.
In terms of percentages or flat number?
It'd be great to know both.
Oh man, so it's funny. I could say that our marketing budget is between 4 to 5%. I'd have to honestly look at our percentage-based numbers. I don't want to throw out any numbers because it's either going to be wildly inaccurate or not. But Google is heavier for us. It's always been heavier for us. I'd say that we always go through periods of time where we're looking to increase the dial and seeing what the net effect is. We don't want to potentially have an inverse effect. And if we spend more and kind of get the same effect, is that as the result of the Google platform, or is it as a result of constraints that potentially limit our ability to convert? I would say that on the meta ad side, we've gotten better and better about being strategic there. We're also big fans of promoting organic posts that also do well. I think that's a great way to not have to outsource as much. Not everybody wants to potentially get into meta ads, so we do have some ads we do ourselves, some that we outsource. And then another thing that I would recommend is looking into, we use a company called Ground Truth. It's really nice to fence new locations or fence certain events. If you've ever felt like you've been followed by a company during certain periods of time, we will try to follow people when we open up a new office or when we might be at an event. So you might see us in person at an event, but we also might be seeing you on your phone throughout the course of the time leading up to the event. Gosh, I wish I had a hard number for you, Neil. Maybe I'll throw it out. Maybe you can throw it in the show notes, but I feel like I'm probably going to put my foot in my mouth after.
No worries with that. But you had a good point there, which is that, you overall marketing budget looking about 4 to 5%, right? And it's shocking to me how good our profession really is at referral-based marketing, because a lot of clinics do pretty well without having to spend 2% towards marketing, right? But it just shows you that if you're looking to have substantial growth, if you're looking to really be in a very competitive market, like in Maryland, around DC area, right, that you have to put more effort into that, more budget into that. And it always comes down to what's your customer acquisition cost relative to your lifetime value with a customer, right? And you talk about that at the beginning. So I'm just curious because you did touch on this, which was how much effort you put into your organic social media. And so can you tell us about that journey and what that's looked like for you over the years with doing more of that?
Yeah, I think that's taken all shapes and forms. I would say during the first probably 5 to 6 years of the company, we did not do a ton, especially on Instagram. We focused a lot just on Facebook because we were local, one person, or one location company early on. Then we had two. We're in Facebook. We were not early adopters to Instagram. I don't think we really even touched LinkedIn until the past few years. TikTok obviously wasn't even a thing. And then we really didn't start diving in until the pandemic. And I would honestly say it was not until we had an internal media team. We brought two people in the house. Trying to think if that was 21 or 22, where we actually had some intent and some strategy behind what was going on, especially in more like the video-based platforms. We would repurpose stuff from Instagram and TikTok into YouTube Shorts. We would actually have long-form content regularly posted to YouTube. And then we got to a certain point in time where we just felt like the internal team was hitting a plateau. We were struggling with messaging. We were struggling with the content ideas coming across as authentic. And then we've actually carved out, I think we have 5 or 6 people internally now that like doing social media, that carve out some of their schedule. And they do social media. So, that's in addition to some of our leadership team, including myself. So at this point, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. I would say, 2025, we had a pretty good year overall with regards to growth. I think we could get better at being a little bit more cohesive and coordinated. But certain people have certain things that, fit them well that, again, I use the word authentic, where not everything needs to be salesy, not everything needs to be, outcome and value focused. Sometimes it's just attention and engaging and entertaining potentially. We have one gentleman in particular that did exceptionally well last year. Our mustache guy, Paid. A lot of people will recognize his face.
Yeah.
I would say he does a good job at layering in some physical therapy concepts and overall just being enjoyable. And that's something that people obviously tune into. So, it's kind of gone through an evolution. It's going to go through an evolution again this year as we look to just get a little bit more streamlined with efforts, making sure that we have more consistent themes or seasons to some of the content that's going out. And ideally continuing to be something that's, an efficient and effective use of carved out time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point too, like that things evolve, things are constantly changing, right? And so what worked for you for social media 2 years ago won't work today, right? Some of the main principles might, right? But yeah, you've got to adapt, you got to change. I love what you're doing, that constantly thinking, constantly innovating around that. And I think too, this is great to unpack, where what you've done is that you've really worked to incorporate key people within the organization that like doing those things. And then it's not all on your shoulders as the owner or a couple internal team marketers to produce all of this content, right? It has to be authentic, it has to be organic. And let's face it, I mean, what the purpose of social media is with our clinics is really how can we tell the stories that are happening from within the clinic, right? All these amazing transformational stories and what's happening with your team and showcasing who you are as a company, and then engaging with an audience around that. And so, can you tell me a little bit more about how you got some of the team members excited about doing some of those things?
Yeah, we made a change with regards to the internal team prior to 2025. We have our annual company kickoff, and we did a challenge. And we honestly did a challenge over the first, block of time during the year. There were some people that did exceptionally well, and your people that stand out, you're like, all right, well, it makes sense to carve out time for you. So it was relatively simple. Providing people on your team with structure. You have some people who like to do it already, and let them run with it. See what pops up. We gave them a new guide every week to kind of facilitate some of the people who might have been on the fence. there was a good amount of people that just didn't participate, and that's fine too. But with a team where we have about 70 some clinicians right now, I mean, you're bound to find a couple people that, with the right structure, should be able to ideally do some good things for you. So it's definitely something that we're going to continue to add more people. We won't be doing challenges anytime soon because obviously, I mentioned we have like 5, 6, 7 people doing it. But the biggest thing is, again, blocking time for the strategy just to make sure that it's not something that we have there that's just kind of running and not working in our best interest.
I love what you've done there because we hear that more and more in today's very competitive hiring and recruiting environment, that therapists want to go beyond just treatment and what can they do to collaborate within the business. And we have everybody has different personalities, different spectrum of interests. And so I think what you've done well there is you've given the opportunity to people who have more of that marketing or entertainment or trying to teach feeling or interest level, and given an opportunity to participate, and obviously how they come across with that. And there's probably others that do very well, maybe with internal and education, research, like whatever it may be, or even admin, business, directors, things like that. So I'm kind of curious for you, what do you see in your how you've approached hiring, recruiting, giving people opportunities within the business to do, or like you said, carve out a little bit of time away just from patient care?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of it, like, I mean, a situation like that, you have to show that you're good at it. I think I kind of have an idea of where you're taking this conversation, but like, everybody wants to talk about non-clinical stuff, right? But that wasn't on your original roles and responsibilities when you signed up to be a PT. And then if I ask you to present your resume for the non-clinical role, you don't have anything on your resume for non-clinical roles. So it's like, how do I microdose something that somebody might want to do to see if they actually have a natural affinity for it? I'm certainly not going to put somebody in a position, hey, you get to carve out time for social media, but you've never done anything on social media before. You don't like posting, and I have no clue how good you're going to do at it. So trying to find ways that people can collaborate on small projects, trying to find ways that where people can trial things is, I think important. It's also no different than like, don't feel like you have to. Not every great PT is going to be a great leader. Not every great PT is going to be a great social media person. Not every great PT is going to be a good teacher from a clinical education standpoint. So you have to find ways in your ecosystem where things can get trialed. And then you have to figure out whether or not it's actually appropriate at your given time. Sometimes people show an affinity or a strength in certain areas, and we go, we don't have it in the budget right now from a company standpoint. Like we're not at a point where we can have X amount of clinicians that are billable and X amount of people that are non-billable. We're gradually trying to increase the amount of individuals who are billable versus non-billable. Adding more non-clinical people does not help the company, traditionally speaking, if you don't have layers of efficiency there. I mean, even your marketing people have to be very, very efficient. So I think it's important. I realize it's important to have tracks in companies, but I think we also have to have candid conversations about how people can get qualified into those roles.
Totally agree. Great point there. And so you've done a lot throughout social media for lots of different things. Obviously, there's the company, right? And then certain individuals that are very good at promoting themselves and promoting the company, opportunities within social media. And then you've done a lot yourself with social media and promoting your own personal brand. I'm kind of curious, when did you start on that journey, and what have you like to focus on in portraying yourself as a leader in the physical therapy industry?
Yeah, it's something I don't think I did early enough. Like I look at some of the spaces where I'm regularly doing things now, and I'm like, why didn't I start this earlier? But it just wasn't what I felt like I needed to be doing. And I'm not saying that I did what was right. But I'm definitely more active on Instagram and LinkedIn. I still even struggle to catch up to posts because I do a lot of scheduling nowadays. It's really, really hard to figure out where your time needs to be best allocated. But the scheduling side is big for me at this point in time. Figuring out how you can use even a conversation like this today, or using some of your conversations that you're regularly having with your team on a regular basis. You get a summary of the calls, and then how can I use AI to come up with stuff that I'm already saying in conversations with people and come up with content that's interesting. So not trying to do it all myself, trying to get more efficient with how I can produce things and continue to be top of mind and be relevant. And if we feel like we have something special too, like we should continue to build out in the open. I should continue to be transparent about wins, losses, and learns. And it's only going to benefit other businesses. And honestly, sometimes like I learned from people I didn't even expect to learn, because you put something out there, it's like a free market with regards to who can look at it and who can potentially engage with it, or who can send you a DM and say, hey, I can empathize with this, or hey, I've seen X, Y, and Z before. I'd be happy to help. Or they ask questions of you and then you're benefiting them. Or like an event,
Mhm.
have a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, and so for you, what has the impact been for you? Just putting yourself out there a little bit more, doing things on social media. I know for a lot of practice owners, they kind of hesitate about doing that, putting themselves out there in the community. Just kind of curious what you've seen as like things that have been positive and impact for you by putting yourself out there like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, how do I say this? You have to just not care to a certain extent. Like at the end of the day, you're going to be for some people and you're not going to be for everybody. I think we could all look at various stages of our life personally and professionally and probably see that. So, at the end of the day, you're more likely, if you put yourself out there, to find people who are like you or who are in similar situations, have walked the path, potentially put themselves in the arena also, so to speak. I'm always reminded in situations where we're in the middle of the NFL football season, how many people have never put a football uniform on and are Monday morning quarterbacks? How many people have never potentially cut the cord and had to only rely on themselves for their finances? Not a ton, but obviously everybody can be a critic. So I think at least if you keep perspective, remind yourself what's inevitable at some point in time. We're all going to die. Don't take it too seriously. Go out there, do your best, and if you're sharing things that are meaningful and resonate with other people, ideally you're going to find more connection than you ever could imagine.
Oh, I love that. That's totally relevant. That's where it's at for a lot of practice owners, right? There are a lot of connections in your community, and not just from getting patients, but just like business opportunities and people that you can connect with, or people you can learn from. And it's one of those things, if you don't put yourself out there, then you will never build those connections. But it's amazing when you start to put yourself out there. At first, like not much is happening, but then it takes a little time to get some traction, and then all of a sudden you're getting connections from people that you never thought you would make connections with or didn't even know about, right? And opportunities come your way, just like us today talking, right? Like you put yourself out there, me putting myself out there. We get to connect. I get to learn from you what you've done to be successful and build this amazing business, and then be able to share that with others. So yeah, I think it's one of the things that we have to do today. We may not like it at the beginning, but we get used to it, and putting ourselves out there on social media.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits that I've seen is having opportunities naturally present themselves that otherwise never would have. Talk about stuff that's just not even on your radar that will potentially become a thing. And then a lot of times, I get connected with people. I'm thinking about like an internal project for us right now on Q1, where if I wasn't transparent about something that we were like struggling with or wanting to work through, I never would have gotten connected to these two people. And we never would be in a situation where we potentially like be expediting ourselves through an operations transition. And we probably would have significantly more friction. And all it took was a little time to carve out to continue to communicate certain things that are going on personally, professionally, at R2P through a text-based or video-based channel, and look at the upside. I view it as literally having nothing but upside.
Oh, totally love that. And so just kind of wrapping up here, if talking to our audience out there, let's say I'm a practice owner, I've got, one larger location or multi-locations, and I'm really thinking about doing more with building my brand or building my social presence online. Like, what's a great place for someone to start?
I'm thinking about probably three different people that I'm actively, even right now, learning from. Justin Welsh is tremendous. Matt Gray is tremendous, and Caleb Ralston. I would say that Justin Welsh has some really, really good coursework you can go through. Matt Gray and Caleb Ralston have amazing YouTube videos that I find myself literally just pressing play on whatever they have or whatever recently got updated. But if I had to pick three people, it would be those three. And ideally, you would put yourself in a position where you're able to communicate more clearly. The word brand, obviously, we talked about company brand in the beginning here, but a lot of people haven't thought about what their personal brand is. What kind of pairings do you want to have when people think of your name? What kind of associations do you want people to have? Is it synonymous with your brand? Where might you not have the alignment that you're looking for, that you're not necessarily putting out into the world? It's not saying everything's got to be perfect, but arguably we are trying to position ourselves in a way that, max alignment and clarity is probably only going to work more in our favor than not. You don't want to say X, Y, and Z for your company brand and then have this be a complete disconnect. But the intent and strategy surrounding it. What kind of ways can you communicate your status, your process, your level of legitimacy in intentional but thoughtful ways without coming across as overly self-promoting. And it's not to say that you can't do that sometimes, but refer to one of my favorite books, even on a marketing level, that I think is relevant to a personal side. But jab, 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 hook, right? You're only trying to sell somebody or to self-promote yourself so often. The rest of the time should largely be for potential entertainment, but education and engagement largely. So knowing ways to potentially put that information out there, I think the easiest way, again, that I've had success is making sure that all of your conversations, pretty much, that you have your little assistant online, you're getting your summaries, and you're potentially asking ChatGPT, or I use Gemini a lot more now because obviously we're a company that uses G Suite a lot. But you're putting conversations, you're potentially putting your SPCL model, your resume, your bio, all in, and allowing something else to serve as your marketing assistant, which I'm literally telling you what I'm doing on a regular basis, and then coming up with a scheduling platform that could potentially allow you to block things. We're all busy. I think social media becomes really, really challenging when you're just trying to put pressure on yourself to randomly come up with stuff that's witty, fun, educational, engaging, or positions you as a thought leader.
Yeah, I mean, amazing points there. I totally agree that we have a tremendous opportunity here today with ChatGPT and the AI models to help us innovate and go beyond that. And if we some simple things for us to really look at as practice owners is we have challenge sometimes thinking of all the different ways that we can do things, but you can pump that into a GPT model, right? And then basically have that help you with content, right? It even outlines ideas, things that you could do. And then that's something, hey, organize a couple members on the team that want to be part of this and go for it, And so it doesn't take a lot of effort. And sometimes we feel stuck because it might seem daunting to do this or come up with all this content, but we have these tools now that can really make things a lot easier to come up with this. And then it's just some simple execution and boom, you're off to the races with it.
Absolutely. And then always making sure that you're trying to come up with ways to ensure that it is your voice. And that's, again, a great reason why I feel like there's no better way than something that doesn't know you as well to know your voice than to give it your voice. So if you take one thing from this and you're trying to build out your personal brand, just start recording your conversations.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Josh, thank you so much for being with us today. You've given us incredible insight, and congratulations on your success with your practice, with your personal brand. I think you're really one of the leaders here in our industry when it comes to marketing, when it comes to branding. So thank you for being on the podcast with us here today. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to follow us, as well as check out the YouTube channel. We have all these episodes up there, and subscribe to us on that. And then don't forget to go practicepromotions.net, where you can get tons of free marketing advice and downloads for your practice. So this is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.